This is one of the places I've really been looking forward to coming to. This is the Painted Desert, and it's the most stunning reds and ochres and orange and pinks. It's called the Painted Desert. You can see why it's called the Painted Desert. Um, and in the Painted Desert is a thing called the petrified forest, which is trees that have turned into stone effectively over the years. I'll get to that in a while, but just for the minute, look at that. The Painted Desert is a national park. It has a number of different sort of high points. So there's the desert itself and all of the colors that go with it. There's a place called Newspaper Rock, which is where centuries old, possibly more, I'll have to establish that, whether they're into the millennia, of petroglyphs. So art carved into the rock by native people from here. But then there's a number of other sort of picturesque vistas. Not that you'd need another after this. But then there's one of the places that I've been looking forward to seeing for a long time, which is the Petrified Forest. And the Petrified Forest is what it sounds like. It is a forest of fallen trees that have been turned into stone. Look at that view. So we'll talk more about the Petrified Forest. And this is quite well done. You can see they have these viewpoints all the way dotted around so that you can slow down and stop if you want for a while and get a bit of a sense of the different aspects and different colors, landscape of the Painted Desert. And this is what I was saying about the scale of it. It is vast. So this is Tower Point, which is another one of the lookout points that you can go into. And what's interesting is, now it may be that it's, what are we today, Tuesday? And therefore this isn't a particularly busy time. But there's space at all the lookout points where you can actually get in, you can park, you can have a look around. They're not massively overcrowded. I'll just do a little drive by here while the guys are getting all geared up. And it's nicely done. They have information points like this all the way around and the various different trails that they have and history. There's walking trails that take you down into the Painted Desert a little. There's another one of the places that we're going to check out. That used to be, I think that was a hotel built in the 20s or 30s. And it is now turned into a sort of a museum of kind of tourism of that period in the earlier part of the century. So they're all dotted around. They're quite tight together, so you're not doing massive distances, whereas I'm told that the Grand Canyon, you sort of have to dedicate a bit of a day to it. I'm also told, a couple of the guys now, the Grand Canyon people I'm sure would disagree, but a couple of the guys have said, once you've seen this, you know, do you need to go and see the Grand Canyon? But this is just absolutely gorgeous. And a beautiful day. We're already just nudging 90 degrees. So there's the guys just coming through the Painted Desert. Coming up to one of the highest points in the desert. So they're just winding their way around to come up here to this viewing point. You've got Philip and Fiona, Lou, Hugh, and then Niall and Nicole coming up next. I'm going to take off after them. And we'll head to the next viewing point. The group is just leaving Studebaker, heading from where that original Route 66 was. We're now going to the Petrified Forest. Petrified Forest being, now I'm no geologist, but my understanding of the way the Petrified Forest works is that you had in this area, back in millennia ago, you had a tropical rainforest. And that rainforest, trees fall over when they die. They end up in water which is rich in minerals. I'll just try to kill some of this wind here. Electric screen on the bike, very handy. So, water's rich in minerals. The trees fall into the water. Gradually, those minerals are absorbed into the tissues and cell structure of the trees. Then water dries out. Land presses down, and other vegetation presses down on what remained of the tree, and the minerals form into rock. But they form into rock in the shape of the previous organic material that was there. So you end up with trees made of rock, literally petrified, turned into rock. And this is one of the biggest areas of petrified rock in America. Now, every state in America, I think, has petrified rock. Pretty much or petrified wood. Almost everywhere in the world has some form of petrified wood. And it's funny, they actually sell it here, and they sell local petrified wood from Arizona, and they also sell it imported from Madagascar. It looks different color, different kind of striations in it. You see a lot of this here, dry riverbeds, where evidently there is some flow at some time that can be significant, but for most of the year they're all dried out. So you have the petrified wood, and this became a major tourist attraction, and people would come to look at it, and we're hopefully going to see a couple of the big petrified logs, and you can now go buy it. The reason they sell it is because there was a huge problem with people stealing it, and it was just small pebbles that people would pocket and think, oh, it's not nice, I keep it as a souvenir. But according to the information they had back in the information center, literally hundreds of thousands of tons of petrified rock disappeared out of the place, and still does. They have signs everywhere asking people not to take it, because what seems incremental, of course, adds up, and by the end of it, you could have no petrified wood left in the national park. But at the moment, it is still here, and it's still visible, and I've never seen it before, so I'm very eager to see what it looks like. Again, you turn any corner, and you're greeted by something that in and of itself would be an extraordinary vista worth driving to. And there's about 10 of them backed up. This is like a moonscape. Purples and greys and reds. I can only imagine what it must look like as the sun begins to set and you get that different color coming into the light, because this is extraordinary. And see the striation in the rock, where you've got these clearly defined lines of color. And then the mesas out in the distance. I mean, the desert landscape on its own would be gorgeous, but this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And the fact of doing it on a bike as well, and it has to be said, doing it with a group of people who I've become very close to over the past week or so. They're genuinely really nice people to spend time with. So there's a sense of camaraderie. You get to talk about it afterwards. You feel part of it, because you're not all insulated in an air-conditioned car. You're in the heat. You're in the beauty. And the beauty is just extraordinary. Every corner, you get another vista like this. Normally, when you get caught behind a car that's traveling relatively slowly, you find it frustrating. This is one of the very rare occasions where you hope the car will travel slower, because look at the rock outcropping. And again, you see that same striation and see the change in color. But you'd hope the car would travel slower, because you just want this to last as long as it possibly can. I mean, I thought early stages of Route 66 were beautiful. I thought I'd seen beautiful bits of the desert before when I'd been in New Mexico and Arizona. But this is breathtaking. And oddly, I think the last time, maybe it was the last time they did this or the time before, it managed to rain almost all the way through. The Agate Bridge is a piece of petrified wood. If I have that right, I think it's a single large petrified tree, and they've buttressed it now with some concrete to stop it falling down, but it was acting as a bridge, a sort of a rock bridge, originally wood bridge, across a creek. So that's one of the pieces. But that means now that we're into the petrified forest. Okay, I know I sold it pretty hard, but the petrified wood is actually very impressive. And there's tons of it. It's one of those things where you think, well, there's only going to be like one little small piece of rock, or it's going to be 700 miles away and you're never actually going to be able to see it. But it's everywhere. Oh, good. So they ask you to stay on the paved surface. I don't know how much damage you can actually do to rock, but this is what it looks like. And it's amazing. Like from here, it just looks like fairly solid tree trunks. But when you get up, it's genuinely rock. It is impressive, Nicole.
That's pretty cool.
See? And you can even see in the rock the age lines in the tree. Oh, everybody was getting along so well.
It's like the equivalent of our state.
That's our FBI support. I'm not joking, he is in the FBI. It's always handy to travel with an FBI agent. We have a lot of support from people who have built relations over the years with the 66ers. A lot of people in Chicago. He grew up in Chicago, and that's where he's based. And it's nice. You get that nice sort of sense of extended community. Anyway, back to the petrified wood. More of it everywhere, scattered all around. I'll try to give you a little bit of altitude so you can see. So this was tropical rainforest, and now all that's left are these giant pieces of stone. Amazing. Absolutely amazing place. Even if you don't come on a bike, I strongly recommend coming.